yourself. You jinxed yourself.
Okay, now we gotta go.
Mackenzie, I have a question because I'm looking at the link and it says waiting for associate students, March 5th, 2021. But it's labeled as March 10th on the bottom.
That's
I followed the link that
maybe that's when I scheduled it, but it should have
So
been scheduled.
the title
Never
is
mind.
agnostic from when the start date is. It can be any time. So as long as we start streaming, it will kind of just, it will overwrite the original date that was down.
It's working now.
Okay.
Let me just come back onto the Zoom. Let me hit share screen and we can get started. Sure here. I'm gonna hit where'd the CC button go? Here it is. As you all can see, technology is very much on my side. Okay, hold on. I have to stop sharing my screen because it cut off the part that I need. We're doing great. Okay, so I gotta hit live share before we start sharing screen. Okay, turn on live transcription. Let me bring this back up. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right. And let me just go ahead, get rid of the chat there, and then hit record and we can get started. All right, I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 12:05 p.m. And we'll start off with a roll call. I am here, Chris.
Here.
Christina.
Here.
Louise.
Here.
Michael.
Here.
Alex.
Here.
Jasmine.
Here.
Philly.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Emmanuel.
Present.
Kyle.
Here.
And David is running late. Now that we've established quorum, we can go ahead and move on. Although before we proceed any further, I would like to acknowledge that we are conducting business on the native land of the Hahamonga tribe of the Tongva Nation and offer a moment of silence for those who came before us. All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda for March 10th, 2021. One note, something that I would like to change, I'd like to reorder the agenda to move our invited guests as the first item. Do we have any other notes or changes that need to be made? That need to be made. We're doing well at speaking today, as we can see. If not, then I'd like to go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the noted changes.
Motion to approve the agenda with noted
I'll
changes.
second that.
All right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda has been approved. Moving on to the approval of minutes for March 3rd. Let me pull these up right here. All right. Here are the minutes in front of you. If there's anything that needs to be edited or changed, please let me know. If not, then I'd like to go ahead and entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
I motion.
All right, I believe I heard a first and a second. Who was the first voice I heard? I know I heard Jasmine who else spoke.
Second. It's me.
Oh, Kelly. All right, thank you. Do we have any opposed? No. Hearing none, the minutes have been approved. We can go ahead and move on to invited guests then. So Candace, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, everyone. We're so happy to be here today. Mackenzie, is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, dear. And Jeff is going to kick us off for today.
As soon as we get the PowerPoint up there. All right. Well, a lot of you know who I am, but just to introduce myself, my name is Jeff Winter, and I am full-time faculty here. I've been an adjunct professor for, believe it or not, over 25 years, and recently hired as full-time. But I'm also the co-chair of the District Technology Committee, along with Candace Jones, who is our VP of Information Technology. And together, you can see we created a team with outside consultants, Diane White and Heidi Hampton, and then our internal planning team, Joyce Miyabi, Robert Wardo, Matthew Kamara, and Ireza Grabian. And we created this technology master plan. Now, the whole idea of the master plan is to create this large or macro framework that allows us to implement technology. So whether it's training, hardware, software, services, processes, all those things, the whole idea is to have this framework, not necessarily a wish list or a laundry list of buying whatever hardware or software, but how we're going to implement this. And the whole idea is that it supplements not only the district's mission, but the educational master plan. And within that, it's got strategic goals and accreditation standards. So one of the things that we're proud of is that we've already won a Technology Planning Team Award. And the idea of this award is that it recognizes individuals or teams that played a prominent role in evaluating information technology variables and developing a strategic plan of action that advances our college mission. And specifically, we got the award for the development of our integrated, comprehensive, and equity-minded technology master plan. So we're very excited about that, and the award will be presented to us at the April Board of Trustees meeting. So let's talk about the goals of this technology master plan. There's really two. The main goals are, one, to make sure that the technology master plan is aligned with the educational master plan and institutional priorities. The second goal is to verify that our technology master plan strategies and objectives support the educational master plan objectives. So that's the macro view of it. So now Candace is going to explain to you the micro view of what it is and what it is not. So now it's Candace's turn.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, guys. So we're always cognizant that we have this founding document that really sets the vision for the college, and which is our educational master plan. And so it's not, this plan is not intended to duplicate that plan, right? It's not a second shot at the educational master plan. It's really intended to make sure that we are aligning all of the strategies and visions there with technology. And so it's not intended to be a replacement of like our annual review process. You know, we as department and divisions submit plans every year that are budgeted and accounted for. It's not intended to be like a detailed year-by-year plan. And that's intentional. And the reason why that's intentional is because technology changes on a dime. You know, tomorrow we're going to get a new version of, you know, there's going to be a new MacBook Air. There's going to be a new OS that we need to account for. There's going to be new software packages that may serve the college's needs. And so we want to make sure that the plan is strategic in nature, so that as we need to be flexible and change over time, that this plan allows us to do that. And what I want to make sure that folks know, not only our you know, faculty, staff, and just our students, it's not intended to say, go out and buy all of these things, because we need to be thoughtful in terms of how we are aligning technical strategy with the educational master plan institutional goals. And I think we've done that really well. We'll walk through that a bit. What I'd like to kind of ground us in, because I think a lot of folks, myself included, we often get caught up in what's the difference between a strategy, what's the difference between an objective, and what's the difference between a tactic. We hear those words a lot. Oh, tell me the strategic vision or the strategy around X. And I often find that folks have different understandings of that. So I just wanted to ground us first today And I like to sort of use metaphors. And so I think about a strategy as a road. Okay, so think about this road. We have chosen a road, a path to get to an end destination. There's a beginning part of the road, and then there's an end part of the road. So, okay, so if that's the road that we're driving on, what then is an objective? I think about the objective as lanes in a road, right? So think about the freeway. There's the fast lane, there's these middle lanes, and then there's the slow lane that we all try to avoid. But nonetheless, the lanes are always directional. They're going in the same direction. They are getting you to the same destination, but you have choice in which path that you travel, okay? And then I think about tactics. So what we're really, really great here at Pasadena City College, we are very great about specifics. I want to do this specific thing, which is what I would say is a tactic, which I would then liken to the type of vehicle that we use in a lane on the road, right? So I might be able to, okay, I'm in this little Corvette one year, it's really cool. The next year I might be in this really cool hybrid Bug, right? Super specific, but different. And I might be in the middle lane. Next year, I might choose to ride a bike. Okay, next year I might need to use a bike because maybe there's not a lot of funding per se, but maybe I spend my time on policy and procedural work. Sometimes I might need to walk on that road. Okay, all of these things, all of these tactics still are on that same road and still are getting us to our finish line. Okay, so the road is the strategy. This is just sort of this directional high, high level goal. These objectives are ways in which we can drive on that road. And the tactic is going to be the very specific action that we're doing, whether it's riding in this car, whether it's a bike or walking. All right, so I'm not gonna read to y'all because you guys are wonderful. Like, you're a smart crew. There's no need for me to read to you. So I'm just not going to be rude. But what I'd like to play out is just an example of how that fits in the technology master plan. So the exceptional academic programs and delivery, that is actually comes straight from our educational master plan. It is one of the 4 institutional priorities, okay? Now, we have some technical strategies that align to the institutional priority, okay? So an example of, let me pick one. I'm just gonna pick one and give you like an example. Let's take the first strategy. So here's the first road we're gonna drive on. Deploy the information technology needed to support the exceptional delivery of instruction in a variety of modalities. Okay, that's the road that we all are driving on together. The lane that I might choose is, okay, well, let's develop some standards for classroom technology that support these modalities. These modalities are here. There's in-person, there's a remote, fully online option. There is a hybrid, kind of a blend between a mix between online and in person, and then there's high flex courses. Okay, so these are the modalities. I have chosen to drive into in the develop standards for classroom technology lane. The specific tactic I may take is I might say for this hybrid course, maybe there's a particular type of camera in the classroom that needs to be purchased that allows our students who are at home and also on campus to interact together, right? That's super specific in terms of what I'm going to do to meet that objective, which drives on that road for strategy, which ultimately aligns with the educational master plan. Okay, so that's how this works. And our 4 institutional priorities are exceptional academic delivery, program and delivery. We know that we are striving to be an equity-minded learning community. And so there are some really important strategies here to address that. Campus engagement and environment, as well as 3 additional strategies, and then our customized student support. What I'd like to bring in is just, I shared this and I'm hoping y'all got this in advance. No? Okay. Chris, would you mind sharing this with the team?
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
I will
thank you.
send it out.
So I made a poor assumption that y'all had seen it before. So I'm gonna walk back a little bit and then just give you a little bit more context. So we have this large document that you all will receive. It's about 50 pages. But I want to just kind of talk through a high level about how it's organized. So we have, these 9 different chapters that support the plan. The one being on, gives us our purpose, our mission and our values, the summary of how we developed this plan, the process that we went through, some of the external data that we did, what are our strategies and objectives, which I just gave you a quick peek at, how this maps then to our educational master plan, our core infrastructure, total cost of ownership, which is important, and then how we plan to implement. So if I just walk through this at a high level, because again, I refuse to read to y'all because you guys are super smart, but I will give you time to read through it yourselves. And then if you have feedback, you can let me know. So it gives us this beautiful overview of the process, the development of the plan. It always then has these what we call hero moments, which we take direct quotes. So we took direct quotes out of the focus groups and the town halls to kind of highlight. And so I want to thank Associated Students for contributing to making sure that we had great student input and people participating in this process, not only from the survey perspective, but also from our town halls and our focus groups, because we had really great participation. So thank you for that. Then it gives us sort of always a summary with some additional data. This piece gives you kind of an overview of the process by which we worked on. I'm going to show you the visual of this instead of reading through like the words. We did some organizing of the team. We did some surveys out to the community for our faculty, staff, and students. We did some assessment of our existing plans, our focus groups. We did some external data scans. We are in the process right now here where we are meeting with our various constituent groups to gain some input, hoping to then make a recommendation to the board in April for approval. So that's kind of like visually how we laid out the process. Where this is really intentional and I think very different about our plan. So the reason why we got this award is because we grounded all of the work in how we serve our students. So if you look at previous technology plans or technology plans from other districts, they are super, super boring, kind of snooze fests. If you need something to read, go read that, and you want to put yourself to sleep, do that. This is actually written from a perspective that we want the community to be able to engage in this. So if I wanted to talk to another IT professional, I can go do that, right? I want to talk to the community. I want the community to be able to read this and understand the process that we went through without saying, oh, what's the, we use, two-factor authentication, blah, 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 right? I mean, you may have heard those words, but that's not the point. The point is to help the community understand how we're going to move forward with technology. And so it's written in a way that it's a story. It's a story for you all to engage yourselves in and to give some feedback. The one story that grounds this work is around digital equity and inclusion. It's extremely intentional. We are unapologetic about it, and we need to make sure that we are creating strategies that allow us to get to where we need to be and support students. And so there's this moment here where we really talk about digital equity and inclusion and what that means. It goes then into just describing the students that we serve today and how that might change over the next 5 years, how we've used some census data and other data points to guide this work, as well as some internal data discovery to say, like, for example, we have a major increase in our DSPS student population. We need to then be thoughtful of what that means in terms of impact, in terms of planning technology. So read through this, and you'll see the story that we're aligning with our educational master plan. And then there are these data sets that are super specific about how we benchmarked and looked at the data. And then we have a few moments that we really try to describe at a high level what this data looks like. So we were very focused on first benchmarking and understanding the students that we serve based on our service cities, as well as then acknowledging that 74% of our students are outside of our service areas. And so we need to make sure that we're also intentional about pulling in some of the other city data to make sure that we're crafting plans that meet the needs of everyone. And so fortunately, the data that we looked at wasn't dramatically different based on our service cities versus the other cities. What I think is really, really important and that I'm really proud about is that we did a lot of census and EDD data discovery, as well as benchmarking against other institutions of higher education. And basically the quick on this slide, as you're engaging in it, is to say, here are the service cities that Pasadena City College, we have area trustees. And if you look at this, 3 of our service cities already are, the poverty levels are higher than the state averages. So the state average for poverty is around 13%. 3 of our service cities are already above that, okay? But even further, what I think is really important is to really then gauge the unemployment levels of the cities that we serve as well. Looking at pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. So looking at our EDD data to say, okay, so about 5, all of our service cities, if you look at pre-post unemployment rate and post-pandemic unemployment rate, you'll see the dramatic increases, which are well above, in many of our service cities, above the California averages, okay? So we need to then be thoughtful about that. In addition, there's a direct correlation then between the poverty and pandemic impact and then access to household computer and broadband technologies, right? So you'll see a direct correlation when you're looking at our service cities that have the higher poverty rates. You'll then notice that then more of the service of the persons who live in those areas also have issues with equal access to technology, computer and broadband specifically, okay? So we're trying to ground this work in sort of larger data sets that kind of help guide us making decisions. What's also really important is that, well, I think our students are the best, and y'all are special snowflakes like to me. You do fit into a larger context, okay? So you fit into other student populations that are either at 2-year or 4-year institutions. So it doesn't really matter 2-year, 4-year, right? I mean, your educational goal in most cases is to receive a bachelor's, a BS, or a bachelor's degree, right? So we wanted to make sure that the survey data, when we sent those questions out to y'all, we ask the same questions that your counterparts at other institutions across this country also answered. And then you can kind of see what we found is the situations that you are describing are very similar across the country. Okay, so that, you know, if you're looking at Wi-Fi, you all say Wi-Fi is the single most important technology that you need to be successful. Well, that's what your counterparts say. Or that you connect at least 2 devices to our networks. That's what your counterparts say. And so it's important to understand that you all exist within a larger paradigm and for us to then plan for other technology initiatives in the future. I kind of just wanted to point those out. Of course, here are all the strategies Crystal shared. So as you kind of want to do a data dive, you can. We also map to the EMP just to show that. We have some core infrastructure security and technology standards that we've set for the institution, as well as a clear understanding about how we're going to implement this. Like, we're going to regularly review this every year to make sure that we are on track. And then I'm going to end with, and then open for questions. I'm going to end with your survey. So if you look in the appendice, we did a quick summary of the themes that we read out from the survey data. And what I want to say to you all is 2 things. One, we read every comment of the 2,500 students who submitted data. Every bit of it was read and analyzed in a way so that we can apply appropriate strategies to meet those needs. Your common themes for students are Wi-Fi reliability. That's very, very important. Access to computers and internet. Enhanced attention to technology needs to differently abled students, making sure that we're intentional and inclusive around that. Training. So students by and large have shared, y'all get stuff and you're like, I don't know how to use this. What am I supposed to do? Like, you know, and there's a lot of it. So not only do you are like, what am I supposed to do with this piece of technology and how do I use it? There's just a lot of it. So there's like a lot of confusion about where students should be. And then communication and training related to the effective use of tools. So those are your student common themes. And then it gives kind of some highlights in the data here that we pulled out for you all that just describes, you know, how important like zero cost digital textbooks are to you all and making sure that we're advocating and making sure that we're planning for that. That was a bit. I'd love to hear from you and just some initial thoughts or questions. And I'm going to stop sharing because I kind of want to see your faces if that's okay. Okay, let me stop share. Okay, there you are.
I was gonna wait for some of my colleagues to speak up before I did, because I already saw the presentation, but I think, you know, generally from the approach that's being taken here, I really do appreciate that's being taken from like a holistic kind of, you know, approach from the educational plan that we have, from all the data that we gather, just because I know, you know, developing a technology plan, you can kind of sometimes get into weeds of the technicalities of, right, like you said, like which model of computer are we buying or what piece of software are we buying, but that changes all the time. Yeah, and I mean, the first time I heard that presentation, right, with the road and the lanes, like that kind of blew my mind, like, oh, wow, you know, like that makes total sense. I recommend maybe some of you even steal some of that material for your presentations. But I think it's a really well written, well done plan, and I really, yeah, I mean, you presenting it today reinforces that even more. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts or questions about that, but that's how I felt.
Thank you, Chris.
I just want to say thank you for taking the time and reading all of the comments from the data you've collected. Um, which lane do you think we're in at the moment?
As it relates to which strategy?
I'm just thinking about the method. So which vehicle are we in? Are we walking?
Good question. Good question. See, Emmanuel always has super specific questions. I got to be ready for him. I think from if I were to guess, like my best guess, I feel like we're kind of in the blue bug scenario right now. You know, we're not needing to walk yet. There are not only human sort of resource things that the institution is going to have to sort on as we're thinking about the pandemic and our budgets. You know, we have to be conservative in our approaches as it relates to funding. And so while I don't think that we're walking, I'd say we're not in the souped up Corvette either. And that's just, I think it's just intentional to try to then plot a strategy for 5 years, right? Because we're not plotting a strategy for next year. We're actually plotting a strategy for the next 5 years, which will be impacted by the institution's ability to get a bond, right? So I'm not sure if you all know about that process, but just at a high level, a bond is where we go out to the taxpayers and we say, give us X amount of dollars. Usually it's hundreds of millions of dollars to do something. And largely they're capital projects. So facilities, build a new building. Usually there's a bond associated with that. With technology and infrastructure, the plan calls for open and reliable Wi-Fi access in all locations on campus. Whether you're out at the mirror pools, whether you're sitting in the piazza, whether you're out on the athletic field, it shouldn't matter. There should be reliable Wi-Fi in all public spaces. Great. Well, then that means that there is some infrastructure, core infrastructure needs that need to happen. And usually those things are associated with a bond. So the plan is, you know, to really think holistically about this next 5 years. Right now, I feel like we're riding in our hybrid bug. And maybe sometimes we'll walk, but walking doesn't mean that we're not making pronounced steps towards the direction we want to go. And so I always tell folks incremental progress, how small it is still progress. And so we need to celebrate those wins when we have them, even if we're walking along that road. But if I had to guess right now, Emmanuel, I'd say we're driving in the blue bug.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for also including the poverty and pandemic impact. I think it's helpful.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering that. Just note there is such thing as a hybrid Ferrari as well.
Really? Oh my goodness. I had to pick the things that I could kind of speak to a little bit, and the Ferrari thing is a little outside of my realm. Are there any other questions or comments?
I'm not sure if you answered this or said anything about in the master plan, but in the technological master plan, do you have a specific recommendation you're providing to the campus for specific things that you want to add? So for example, we talked about Wi-Fi. Are you recommending specific funding for like Wi-Fi implementation, or is this just explaining what steps you want to take?
Yeah, it's more about the framework of explaining how we get towards there. Since there's always usually funding, I like to dream and I like to dream big. And I don't want somebody saying, well, that costs too much, right? I don't want it to stop out of the gate because I've associated a dollar tag to it. I want to express the vision, and then we work as a community to figure out how we get there together, whether it be funding, whether it be people, whether it be process. So is there a list on there that says purchase these things? No, but there's a list that says, I expect there to be public and open Wi-Fi access across campus. Or I expect that students have, access to the technology that they need to complete their instructional goals, right? So I could fulfill that either with hardware, I could fulfill that with software. I mean, I could fulfill that in a lot of different ways. But good question. Everybody's trying to call me. Sorry, just ignore that. I ignore it. All right, my friends, here's what I'm gonna need from y'all. I'd like to come back. I'd like you guys to take I know Chris had an opportunity to send it to you all. So if you wouldn't mind reading through it and just kind of like having it resonate with you, I'd love to be invited back at your next meeting, and I'd love to, if okay, then to call for a formal approval on behalf of AS to accept the technology master plan. If I could make that request, Chris can let me know when y'all are meeting next, and then I'd love to be on the agenda.
Yep, I'll go and put it in my notes here to send you the link for the Zoom next week. And I sent the slides out to everybody as you were speaking, so they have that material now.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Candace.
so much for
Thank you
coming.
sharing that. That was excellent. It really.
No problem. I'm always happy to be invited.
Thank you. I appreciate it too.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Jeff.
Bye.
Let me get the agenda back up. And I gotta move my part. All right, we can go ahead and backtrack then. We skipped public comment on non-agenda items. Did we have any public comments?
I'm looking at the Zoom, the YouTube, and there's nothing. I think you and I are watching, the only ones.
All right, great. Moving on then to introductions and reports, starting with board reports. We'll do this based off how I see you on my screen. So first up, we have Alex. Do you have anything you'd like to report?
Nothing to report this week.
All right, thank you. Up next, we have Kyle. Do you have anything you would like to report?
Yeah, so 2 weeks pretty fast. I attended 2 college-wide committee meetings. The first one was attending a distance education committee. We talked about LTIs, like basically like Canvas editions and the new systems which are going based around that. We also talked about the Pronto system, which was just added. That's a way to directly confer with your professor and any students in your classes. It's basically a streamlined communication system. And then I also attended the strategic planning committee. And we discussed the vision statement and the core values. We basically finalized those. They should be all finished up. And then on the other fronts, I met with Supreme Council working groups, and we continued our draft for the Constitution and bylaw amendments. And all those will come before this body on the 31st of this month, and they will have to be approved at that date, and that will be on the agenda. So just keep a watch out for that. I met with the prospective editor and speaker on the podcast and assigned her to create an intro. And reminder for anyone who's forgotten, the podcast will be out on the 14th. And I've bought the software and I have finished the editing for the podcast, and everything's on track for it to be released on every single platform, essentially, on the 14th. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Up next on my screen, we have Michael. Do you have anything you would like to report?
I'd just like to report that I attended the Institutional Effectiveness Committee, and that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael. Up next on my screen, we have Emmanuel. Do you have anything you would like to report?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to report that I've reached out to all of my classmates and professors to promote Lancer Live and our committee meetings. One of my professors has actually offered extra credit to all students who attend the live meeting and/or watch the YouTube live stream recording, and provide thoughts and concerns about the discussions we have. Also have promoted our office hours, and been contacted by Syria from Office of Student Life to provide availability for the Food Service Committee. Also, I've been reviewing some of the minutes from the shared governance meetings from last month so that I can provide feedback and corrections before our next meeting. And also, I've booked an appointment with our VP of Academic Affairs, Christine Zhang, to discuss a potential student forum on food services. Also, for our upcoming AS Sustainability Committee meeting, that will be on Tuesday, the 16th at 1 p.m. Our AS Sustainability Committee member, Sean Sui, is working on our committee IG or Instagram and Facebook to better promote our meetings and events. Also, I've reached out to Jessica via phone call from Pasadena Promos for some additional item quotes on a canvas tote bag and stainless steel water flask. Currently waiting on quotes to be emailed to us, and that is it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Emmanuel. Up next on my screen, we have Chris. Do you have anything you would like to report?
I'm going to start off with a bunch of ICC stuff. So we are currently in the middle of doing the required trainings for ICC, which are Lancer Life and funding. We did the funding workshops Monday and Tuesday, and today we're in the middle of that. We're doing the Lancer Life workshops today and tomorrow. We had a pretty good turnout for the first two, but I think due to A, maybe me having an error in the email, and B, people just being busy, we didn't maybe get the amount of people that we wanted to see. So we'll be having some last minute workshops on Friday. So if you are aware of any clubs that are worried about not getting those trainings, then you can tell them we'll be having those on Friday after the ICC meeting. Speaking of that, there is an ICC meeting this week, so we'll be continuing to charter clubs. And we'll be talking about a bunch of different things, Club Spirit Week, constitutions, because some clubs need to fix that, and such and such. Speaking of Spirit Week, that is coming up in 2 weeks, and it's starting on the 23rd. We are planning on having a movie night that week. All of you are invited, a trivia night, and then Carrie is in contact with a company that's providing escape room activities over Zoom. So there'll be lots of fun for them. Moving on to committee reports, I am meeting with the district-wide technology committee today at 3 p.m. After this meeting, obviously Candace came to our meeting and presented her slides. So just make sure to review it, and I'll invite her next meeting to go over any questions we have and feedback, and then approve it as AS. I met with the Flea Market Scholarship yesterday with Dean Cobb and that person from the foundation. I think it's Lizette. I met with those two folks, and we decided that the amounts for the scholarships this semester for the major ones, which I believe are the leadership and volunteer ones, will be $5K for this semester, and there'll be a maximum cap of 5 people that can be awarded those scholarships. So those are coming down the pipeline. I know AS typically applies for them, so just make sure you go ahead and keep an eye out on the foundation website when those applications open. But that's it for me. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Chris. Up next on my screen, we have Jasmine. Do you have anything you would like to report?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I think we're still in Women's Month, so happy Women's Month to the femme-identified folks on here. So for my committee reports, or sorry, for my individual reports, I participated in the professional development student experience panel with Dr. Hatch and Dr. Micaela Mares and the rest of the committee from that. And I think that went really, really well. I know Mackenzie and Christina were able to join that panel discussion as well. And I think it was really effective, and I definitely felt seen and heard throughout the whole meeting. There was a lot of things surrounding curriculum and how to humanize our experience as students and faculty and staff that are also experiencing this pandemic. So I think that was a really, really important conversation to have as we begin, or as they have their professional development day scheduled soon. I also attended the Insurrection series, the first series of that series that the Cross Cultural Center and the Office of Student Life are hosting. So that was really, really informative. And yeah, I look forward to the rest of the episodes. As for committee meetings, or as for my committee reports, we had our meeting last week where we talked a little bit about about the current situation of micro and macro aggressions towards the API community. And so we decided that we do want to move forward with a solidarity statement as we see hate crimes continue to rise, and sometimes they don't get reported, but I think it's really important that as associated students that we talk about ensuring a safe and inclusive environment, and we're acknowledging this racial discrimination that's going on in society right now. So I think it's super important. I've never done a solidarity statement like this before, so I'm definitely going to email Mackenzie on how I should pull through with this, since it's drafted up right now, and I think that there's a lot of information that still needs to be said. But again, I've never done a statement like this before, so I welcome any feedback. I'll go ahead and email Mackenzie and hopefully forward that after the first draft has been formulated. And that's it for my reports. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Up next on my screen, we have Philly. Do you have anything you would like to report?
Just wanted to say thank you so much to Jasmine for that. That was literally on my mind the past few weeks, and that's something that we very relevant and showcases that we do actually see and hear the pain of the AAPI community. And as for board reports, I'd like to actually share my screen. And so the first thing that I'd like to report is that I've basically overhauled our YouTube channel. Thank you, Christina, for giving me the suggestion. So basically, this is our homepage now. Like it shows like our live stream. It shows any upcoming live streams. It just features PCC. And I've made multiple playlists. So we have all of our executive meetings, all of our interclub council meetings, etc. This one is our Club Rush, but that's also there. And on our videos, I've made thumbnails for everything, and I had to go through it manually to change them. So now it looks actually good now. And it's not just, it looks less of an archive and more lively. And the two other things I'd like to report are that I will be meeting with Rafael Judah. He is one of the coordinators for TEDx PCC. So if you have heard, they are going to have a TEDx event under the PCC name. And I'll be actually meeting with him at 4 p.m. today. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the EIC of the Courier. And we're going to see what I can do with her in terms of the publicity committee. And I'll skip this for now. But I've also made a agenda template. This is for future people. Everyone already has agendas, but I just wanted to do this for the future. So if you just go on the Associated Students Drive in the templates, it's right there. This is Google friendly. So it's all formatted in Google. So it's not weird. It's not like a doc or a PDF. And so this is just for the future. Just wanted to let you know about that. And I'll stop sharing now. But I will be also hopefully serving on a hiring committee for the director of marketing. Carrie sent me an email, and I don't know if I'm confirmed on that yet, but I expressed my support. And as for committee reports, the publicity committee is finally in motion. I gave a 2-week span for them, but luckily we were able to fast track it, and I condensed it all into a 3-day span. And so all of the interviews were done last week, and I talked to Jordan, and we're able to have it this week on this Friday. So if you have time, please come and visit the publicity committee this Friday at 9 a.m. And please say hi. I made an agenda item for you. And we have 9 amazing committee members. And if you show up, you can help us provide input on what we need to focus on for the rest of the semester. And so I'm really looking forward for that. So hope to see people there. That's all for my report.
All right, thank you so much, Philly. Up next on my screen, we have Christina. Do you have anything you would like to report?
Yes. So basically last week, Friday, I went to the Flex Advisory Committee and Professional Development Committee. I think that was like the whole name of the committee. And I went with Mackenzie, Jasmine, and Sophia. And it was actually really amazing. Everyone was so supportive of what we had to say. And I'm hoping that if they ever meet again, I'm hoping to see a lot, I guess, more of you guys there, because they were so friendly and they wanted to help us and we wanted to help them as well. And also the Academic Senate meeting, that was super informational as well. Well, we had a couple of public comments on professors and staff expressing their opinions on coming back to college campuses, and a lot of them were saying that there's a couple of things that need to be in play before we do go back onto campus. And I think a lot of professors or staff, they were strongly against going back. Also, we talked about it was, let me see, hold on. Oh, we also talked about the technology master plan, which we went over today. And we also talked about AP 6620, which is naming of the buildings. And they just wanted to add something that we could remove a name into that. So, and there will be a committee formed, I believe, to like make the name of a new building, since we are also building a new building at the campus. And I asked them to forward me any information to see if any of us want to join in. Also, I met with, me and David met with Dr. Hennes and I believe it's Dr. Duran and Nikki. We were talking about the hiring committees and bringing on a student onto those hiring committees. And hopefully that comes into play and we're able to basically push that forward. But that's all of my reports.
All right, thank you, Christina. Up next on my screen, we have Louise. Do you have anything you would like to report?
Hi, everyone. No individual reports for this week, but in terms of committee, I will be going to the OER committee meeting next Wednesday at 1, so I'll be leaving early. And also, I'll be seeing Dr. Olivo with Mackenzie and David on Monday as well. So let me know if you have anything you want to add to that conversation with Dr. Olivo or OER. But yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you so much, Louise. Up next on my screen, we have Kelly. Do you have anything you would like to report?
Yeah, so it's just recently, I mean, we've been meeting with a lot of the legislators, and actually, there's a really interesting thing is Senator Portantino actually came onto one of the calls, which is insane because we didn't expect him to be there. Like, we just thought it was going to be a staffer, but he showed up and everyone was like, oh my gosh. So that was really cool. I think that was a really good experience for the lobby committee. But yeah, they've been meeting with bunch of senators. I think now we're past, we're close to 15 that we met with so far, and we're still counting. So that's just an update as to who we've been meeting with. This morning, actually, we also called into a Senate hearing, which is really great to hear. They take quorum just like us. That's kind of cool how we used to see us doing all these things, but it's from, I mean, there's that kind of there's a whole reason behind it. And it's really cool to see the Senate also do the same. So it was good to call in. We, voiced our opinion as Pasadena City College students on SB 20, which is the CalFresh bill that our AS has approved. I think it was a few weeks ago, but yeah, so that's an update from us.
All right, thank you so much, Kelly. And lastly on my screen, we have David. Do you have anything you would like to report?
Yes. Kind of brief. So yeah, like Christina mentioned, me and her have been meeting with Dr. Hennes and Director Nikki Dixon from the EOPNS Next Up Care Foster Youth Programs at PCC. And we're trying to get students, and Dean Duran, of course, and we're trying to get students on these 2 hiring committees for counseling faculty positions, just to sort of, like I mentioned before, we're sort of doing this thing to inform how we would do this in the future. And we've already appointed the student for the nursing faculty hiring committee as well. But yeah, I'm just gonna follow up on Carrie because I know that she sent forward students for from A2Med for the EEO training. So I'm just gonna gather students from that pool for the Black Student Success Counseling Position Hiring Committee. And then me and Mackenzie also attended the COVID task force last week. And we will be splitting into different work groups. And I specifically requested that me and Mackenzie try to like spread ourselves out because there's 8 work groups, and there's a lot of gaps there, and a lot of opportunities for student input to not be there. So I'm trying to combat that in any way I can. But yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you so much, David. Lastly is my own report. I mostly attended group meetings, so I'll keep it short since everybody covered it pretty well. Like Jasmine and Christina mentioned, we did attend the Flex Advisory Committee with Committee Member Sofia Acevedo. It was really nice to go to there and actually have a place where we could speak out on our experiences that we've had on students and what it is we'd like to see implemented. So it's a really good connection that we have that hopefully we can continue to use on throughout the semester. Like David mentioned, we attended the COVID task force committee meeting. That was a very interesting meeting to go to hear. Everybody has a bunch of different ideas, and it's just going to be interesting to see how everybody comes together to see what it is we want to do. But I do like that everybody is already brainstorming. Like Louise mentioned, we have a meeting coming up with Dr. Olivo and David. So if you have anything you want us to ask or bring up, just let any of us know so that we can go ahead and ask Dr. Olivo. I have some committee meetings coming up for the student success. That is on Tuesday at 1:30. If any of you or your committee members would like to attend, you can just message me and I'll go ahead and send you the link. I had some of my meetings canceled for accreditation interviews this week. I'm not sure why they were canceled. We were just told that the team no longer wanted to meet with us. So that was an interesting update. And I believe that's all I have for my own updates. So we can go ahead and move on to our advisor reports. Advisors, would any of you like to start?
Sure. Okay. Starting where Mackenzie left off, just to let you know the reason why I was a little upset too that they canceled our accreditation meetings. I'm like, what? You don't want to meet with our students? And was about ready to kind of explore that. And then I went to a meeting with the accreditation committee where they explained themselves and basically said, I think because everyone understands the Zoom fatigue, which is very real, they read through the ICER and they felt that certain issues were covered in a way that they were satisfied. And normally in person, they would love to sit and talk with you. But what they wanted to do instead is there are areas that they felt they would rather concentrate their time on. So it's a good thing and it's a good thing, and don't interpret it as a bad thing. The good thing is they felt like student leadership, and I think it might've been under title, whatever section 2 was, they felt that we had answered stuff sufficiently that they didn't need to meet with us, but they wanted to concentrate themselves on other areas. They also said just because you do still have an interview doesn't mean that you're in trouble, but just that they felt like you're all good. So I was personally going to take it. I was taking it personally as about ready to start making some trouble and making some noise. Why don't you want to talk to my students? But it's because they love you and they don't feel they need to talk to you. So I'll accept that. So don't worry about it. Just figure you now have an extra 2 hours in your schedule. As you all noticed at the bottom, we now have this great closed captioning. I'm so happy and thrilled. I've been working with Alex Buckelhide to try and buy Otter AI, which is a way that we could have a more accurate, other than YouTube closed captioning. But this, I think this came in the latest update when I updated my Zoom the other day. I know it's amazingly accurate. And what you can do, Mackenzie, I'll tell you, for someone who's a little bit older, or all of you, so all of you, whoever's the host, you're going to see it at the bottom. It's going to say CC. You want to go open that up when you host your meeting. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to the bottom where it says live transcriptions or closed captioning, click on that, and then it's going to take you to a box and it's going to say, how big do you want the words to be? You can make them a little bit bigger than this. They're a little small, but that's the way you all do it. I would suggest that you all do that now for all of your meetings, and it should be done by the host because no one else has that control. And I think it's fantastic. It allows, it's much more inclusive. It's something that I've always been aware of and struggled to get, but now we can do it. So we now are one step closer to being more inclusive. Couple other things coming up is that we've got elections coming up. I sent you all the election timeline. I'll discuss it when we come to future events. Just as a reminder, Mackenzie, you'll need to appoint today or soon, next week, 2 students at large preferably maybe some folks that not are all, maybe one person who's on AS or has some familiarity with AS, and maybe someone else who you think, you know, can provide an outside perspective. Dean Cobb, you'll need to appoint one student at large and a faculty, staff, or admin for this. So I'm noticing something. Note, if you host, you can't CC when you are the one sharing your screen. Oh, okay, good point. So coming up to elections, also don't forget to make your appointments. Kyle and Philly, I'd ask that you work with Jordan to update update our governing documents. The most updated version is from 2017, and I believe we made corrections and approvals this last cycle of elections 2020. So it's really important that I have the most updated version up for the public, because that's where your candidates will go to look at your documentation. So if the three of you all could get together, Philly has access and Jordan has access. I don't have access because I didn't finish the training. But if we could update our documents, that would be very important for this process moving forward. Hiring committee, there's a bunch of committees coming up. So you've got the election committee. I would recommend that you appoint Philly to the hiring committee for the HR, for the publicity, I think the new publicity position. And then you're going to have, Mackenzie, we have a lot of folks that I've recruited for the spring budget review. We need to make sure we meet with them to review that. And then David, if you want me to, I didn't do anything else. I didn't know what else we were doing with the EEO hires for Dr. Young's committee. So if I need to get someone for that, please let me know so I can work on that. And lastly, is that we have new rules regarding money. So one of the big rules that's coming up is that we have to have all contracts, as you know, signed by Dr. Bush, but the process is a little bit more complicated than that, because it's the end of the year and they make plans to close the books out, which we close the books out at the end of July. But basically any contract, so that may mean a performer, a speaker, or something, a rental or anything like that, we need to have that signed by Mike Bush, and it needs to be to our office by April 1st. So for those of you thinking about hiring people, a speaker, a comedian, a magician, musicians, let's get that done now, because we don't know what the process is. This is a new ground for all of us. I don't think Dr. Bush realizes the volume that could come through, but we don't know how this is going to work. So what I'm saying is get it to us by April 1st. If we pass the deadline, I'm going to start turning down all speaker requests. So please make sure you have that put together. Accreditation, closed captioning. And after this, I need to talk to Alex, Emmanuel, and Christine just to confirm meetings with you all. But other than that, it's been really good to see you. I was actually really excited to see you all. So glad to see all those faces. I'm bummed we can't get together. But anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Dean Cobb, are you up next?
Yeah, so hi, sorry, I apologize for being late. My meetings are flowing into each other. I don't know what the discussion has been on the COVID task force. If you all are planning to add students to that task force, because like David said, are there 8 committees? And I don't know, Mackenzie and David, I sent you the form to sign up for the 2 committees that you want to be on, but I'm not sure if do you all have plans to add more students? I know Carrie and I feel very strongly about this. And we think there needs to be, and I have talked to other folks like Alex and Candace and some other folks who are kind of facilitating this, and said we need to have, and Carrie said as well, we need to have a student on every committee. Yeah, okay. So I think it's really important moving forward that there is a student voice on each of those subcommittees. Okay, and I sent you those forms, Mackenzie and David, if you hadn't gotten them. I didn't see your names. But also, Mackenzie, just wanted to make sure that you got our information on RFPs for the RFP for the meal delivery service from a person named Cameron. So check your email because they're due on Monday, our scoring sheet. So the college is moving forward, and I mentioned this, I think a few weeks ago, the college is moving forward with the request for proposals process for a meal delivery service. We had talked about Every Table being a meal delivery service available to students. You can have X number of meals delivered to your home each week. And this is really something Dr. Lebo is moving forward. So now we're moving really quickly. I think we have 4 or 5 proposals to review. And I know I'm on that committee and Mackenzie's on that committee. I'd have to, Dr. Cohen Chow is also on that committee to review the RFPs. So just wanted to make sure that Mackenzie, you got that email and that you see, because I didn't pay attention to the deadline until like yesterday. And it's Monday, so make sure that you do that. Yesterday at our student services managers. Oh, yeah, Carrie, I'll respond to that. We had a presentation from Rohan Desai, who is a counselor, and he works with the Ascend program, and I invited him to do his presentation for AS, if that's okay. And so if someone will reach out to him, it's Rohan Desai. It was really great. It's informative, and I think it's really important that you all have the same information we're working with. For one, it's Ascend is a program for men of color at PCC, and they just have some data that he was able to share with us. And I think it's really important for you all to understand why Ascend exists and to understand the work they do and the impact it's having on students. So I asked him if he'd be willing to come talk to you. So folks have been invited to the bookstore and food advisory committee meeting, and sorry for the delay. There was confusion between Saria and I about who, and I just want clarification because I don't have your governing documents in front of me. Who is, I have Michael and Emmanuel and Mackenzie, but I thought Luis also serves on one of these committees. Am I wrong? Luis, your student services, right?
Yes, I am.
Do you serve on bookstore or food service committee?
I do sit on bookstore and parking and student services fund, but I thought bookstore and parking were inactive, or I just haven't heard about it.
Parking is inactive. So yeah, so we were disagreeing on who needs to be on it. So I will tell Saria today to send to get information. So we need to get dates. We're trying to set up our first meeting. Also for the commencement advisory crew, can you please respond to Saria regarding your availability next week? What we're trying to do is coordinate. We're hiring a company to help us produce this year's commencement because it's going to be so different and so many moving parts that are beyond the 5 staff people or 7 staff people that exist in Office of Student Life. So one of the things we're kind of in pre-design or pre-production, and the company reps want to meet with you, or recommended that they meet with you to get your input on what this should look like. I don't know if I shared with you before, they had some recommendations that like I didn't think were at all in line with who our students are. And, it was like surfer stuff, Route 66 kind of 60 stuff. And I was like, I don't think that's who our students are, So if you can just make sure that you respond. So hopefully by Friday, we can set up an appointment. We can send out a meeting notice and set up an appointment for next week for you to meet with them. And so either I or Saria will meet with you with them, because Saria is involved in the planning of this. And just to remind you, we're working on a drive-through experience for commencement, and it will host class of 2021 and class of 2020 as well. Okay. So tomorrow is PD day, and I know there's a couple folks, students that I have meetings with tomorrow, but I'm involved in PD day, so I'm not going to be able to have any of my regular meetings tomorrow. So I apologize, but we can meet next week if we're off week. And David, I moved you to Monday because I know we want to meet the Monday before the board meeting. So just so you know, PD day, if you're trying to get hold of folks tomorrow, faculty, staff, or anybody else, employees, folks are most likely doing PD day tomorrow because it's from 9 o'clock until 4:30. And if we were on campus, no classes would be in session tomorrow, and we would be closed to students. Okay. And I think that's all. Oh, accreditation. Yes. So just so you know, wait, kudos to Philly. Philly, you are just getting so many props all around campus. You and Chris for your expertise. And actually, I was in 2 long meetings yesterday where AS itself got big props for continuously making sure students are engaged and included, and how much you're pivoting to utilize technology, utilize different means to keep students connected. And you got big shout outs, especially Chris and Philly. You got big shout outs and props yesterday in the meetings I was in. And also thank you, those of you who came to the event on Monday. Please, we're trying to pull our stuff together and get more organized, but please plan on participating. And if you want to be involved in planning the future months for the insurrection, past, present, and future, reach out to me, Carrie, Matt, or Jordan, because we do always want students to help us co-create, because we get stuck in our head in the past sometimes, and we don't know what. We need your help to be relevant for students as well. But thank you.
Okay, I guess I'll go, Mackenzie, just really quick. So I just wanted to let everybody know, next week for me is spring break, so I'll have a little bit more availability, those of you I need to meet with. So I'm talking to Luis, which thank you for emailing me. Philly, we have our committee meeting on Friday. Kyle, if you need to meet with me next week, just let me know. I just wanted to take this time too as well to remind everybody about time management and sort of a wellness check-in. I've been hearing and seeing a lot of things about everybody's schedule and how over-inundated they are, and how busy they get. And I just met with Christina this morning to discuss sort of her situation and what's going on with her time management, and I feel like it went really well. Those of you that need to meet with me, please let me know. I think it's important to understand that, especially during this time, I understand that you want your voices as students to be heard, and that's wonderful and amazing. And like Dr. Cobb said, you all are getting props across campus. However, if that is coming at a cost to you, that's an issue. Personally, if that's coming with stress, more anxiety, more time on your plate that you have less to devote towards your academics and your personal life, that can be an issue as well. And it can get brought up in a couple of other ways that may come out as animosity or frustration because you don't have proper ways to deal with that stress and anxiety, right? And it can be a simple tweak, like doing a to-do list every week. It can be something like tweaking your sleeping schedule or tweaking just a couple of things on how to rearrange your schedule. So please reach out to me sooner than later before you get to that point, because it's really important for me and us as advisors to address the problem, to be proactive about it instead of reactive. And now I have to go in because you exploded on a faculty member in a committee meeting, if that makes sense, right? So just let me know. I have free time next week, more free time next week. But like Jean Cobb said, we are working on this event series, which is taking up a lot of our time as well. Good time. And so please just reach out to me, letting me know what you need help with, and we can meet, even if it's just for 15, 20, 30 minutes, just so we can go ahead and just do a little bit of a check-in, okay? But I'm here for you, whether you need help with that or you need help resourcing outside of school, we can go ahead and help with that. Other than that, thank you all for reaching out to me, those of you that have. If you need to meet with me, just let me know.
Thank you so much, advisors, for this very informative report. We'll go ahead and move on. Michael, I believe we have no financial reports, correct?
I think there was a financial report attached, but if not, we could just do it next
Was
week.
there? Or hold on. It could be. Let me see. Is it?
Yeah. So as you can see, there is what our current finances look like for our different accounts. And if you could just look it over and make sure that all the entries look correct, or if there's something missing, or if there was something that was like accredited but you never received.
Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns, anything on this? No? If not, this is shared with you when the agenda was sent out, so if you have any questions later on, you can always ask about it then. We'll go ahead and move on then to the next agenda item, shared governance discussion.
Point of order.
This is an action item, so you all need to motion and second to approve and accept the financial reports.
I move to accept the financial report.
I second.
For this, we have to do roll call, right? Since
Yes,
it's an
this
action.
one is a roll call.
All right, we'll go ahead and start off. Chris?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Wait, sorry, this thing's overheating again. All right, Louise?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Jasmine?
Aye.
Billy?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Emmanuel?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Carries, we have approved it. Sorry. The computer. I'm trying to lift it up even though I have it on the table so it can cool down. Now we can go ahead and move on with the agenda to shared governance discussion. If you have anything you'd like to discuss from shared governance meetings you've been attending, or if there's anything that you wanted to further question on that was just mentioned in reports, you can go ahead and do so now. So I will give you all a moment to unmute yourselves if you have anything you'd like to ask or discuss. All right, hearing none, we can go ahead and move on then. Moving on to action items, we have none. Moving on to discussion items. Up next, we have Supreme Council item, which, Kyle, do we have anything for this?
So we have a couple members from Supreme Council here. We have Jonathan's here and Natalie's here. And basically, I just want to update everyone on what the progress is. So we're coming into this week, our meeting's tomorrow, and we're going to be essentially looking over the quote unquote final drafts of all the changes we're going to be making to the bylaws, as well as the Constitution. And after this meeting, we'll be approving them at our next Supreme Council meetings. That'll be 2 weeks after that. So 2 weeks, 2 Thursdays from now. And after that point, it'll come to the AS board to vote on it and to approve it. And then that will go on the ballot for the students to vote on. So that's kind of the structure of what we've been doing. And any kind of components in any specific parts of it, you can address to either me or like many members who are here, the council members, the justices who are here at today's meeting. And I just really want to open the floor up for everyone if they have any questions about what we're doing, because you'll all see it eventually. But if you have any questions now before we get to the approval phase of the Supreme Council, I would love to address any questions. And you can ask any questions to my justices who are here today. And if there's nothing, then I don't have anything else to say. But Natalie and Jonathan can introduce themselves and say, hey, because they're here anyway.
Just like a brief thing I want to clarify. I know Henry's not here, who is our ICC parliamentarian, but since I know Dean Cobb is here, who's the advisor to your committee, and you're here, I was back and forth with Henry about this constitution and how some clubs have some inconsistencies in their documents. Henry has told me that I think what it is maybe the language that I used, and it might be a little bit of my fault, but the fact that there are some issues with their constitutions means that their constitutions are not quote unquote approved. So is it okay if I go back and ask Henry to review the documents with those clubs that are in question and then have them revise it and re-upload it? Do we have to have like an approval process during the ICC meeting to adopt those documents, or generally how does it work?
It's kind of up to you as chair of ICC, but generally I would make sure everything's consistent, and there should be a way that you can approve it. It doesn't mean you have to go through each one at an ICC meeting, but it can be that you approve it on the side, and then you can go through it very quickly at the ICC meeting. And if no one sees any issues, like similar to what we do with our agendas, if no one sees any issues, we can approve it. But honestly, it's kind of up to you as chair, and you can determine how you want to approve them as you see fit.
Okay, David, you had something?
I just wanted to provide how I did it last year. I sort of just gathered all of the club constitutions and distributed all those constitutions to all the justices and got their input. And at every meeting, we just discussed if there were any errors that had to be addressed. And we would resend those constitutions back to those ICC representatives. But everything that did have that was okay, we would approve it as an action item, and that would like sort of give it that stamp of approval with the minutes that was like confirmed club constitution. And so that's sort of the process that I took. That was just based off of my interpretation. But maybe that's a policy that you might want to clarify, because honestly it is pretty vague. But yeah, just something to consider.
Yeah, so that was done, just so everyone's clear on the process. We did similar to that. I've approved some constitutions, and I think the ones in question are the ones that haven't been approved. Like, what's the process for those that need further revision to be approved? And that's kind of what Chris was asking about. And honestly, Chris, there's a little leeway for you to determine how you want to do that. But the structure we have in place is that if they have any issues with a comment that we gave them, they can reach out to the person who reviewed their constitution, which all their emails were listed, and then they can get direct feedback, and then that could be approved in whatever manner you want it to be. Either you can send it back to us and we can review them, put the final stamp, or you can vote it on it at an ICC meeting. But I'll leave that up to you to determine which one you want.
Okay, I'll talk with Henry and then both the options that you gave me, and then we can go forward from there. Okay, all right, thank you.
And then next I'll go to Emmanuel, since he's had his hand up longer.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I know that some of the justices are part of the police policy committee hosted by Dr. Bush. I was just wondering if we could get an update on that.
The public, you mean the police policy one?
Yes.
So from what I understand is we still haven't got the meeting information. I don't know if Dean Cobb would collaborate. Yes, corroborates with that. So we still.
No,
yeah.
they met. They were there.
They met?
Yeah, I met with them last week, and then Joselle wasn't able to go to the meeting last week. She was taking an exam, but Henry was there, and we're not sure if we're having a meeting tomorrow because it's PD day. I'm still waiting to hear back from Dr. Bush, but they were involved. And so last Thursday was their first meeting, but Henry was there. And it's funny, it was their first meeting. It was like the shortest meeting we've ever had. It was 20 minutes tops because the section we were covering was really brief. But so we're scheduled to meet tomorrow, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen because it's PD day. And I know I'm doing a presentation at that time, so I'm not sure what that means for other folks on that committee. But we're about halfway through. that 600-page document. I think we might be a little more than halfway through that 600-page document, and our goal is to be done by end of April, May. So I know we're going to probably pick up the pace, but it was really nice to have them involved. And one of the things we're trying to work out is them having access to the Teams drive, because the Teams drive is really set up for employees, not for students. But so I'm trying to send them stuff every week for them to review. But that their first meeting was last Thursday. We meet every 2 weeks.
And so this is new information to me. So I'm definitely going to confer with both Giselle and Henry and have that be in addition to my report. So I make sure that everyone's kept up to date with that committee. Anything else, Emmanuel, before I go to Dean Cobb?
Good, thank you.
Okay, all right, Dean Cobb.
I just wanted clarification from Chris. If Chris was talking about if Supreme Council is going to go back and vote on it, or if ICC has to vote on the documents.
I think maybe from what I heard David say, David approved it within his committee. So I think I'm going to follow that standard or precedent that was set by him and throw it back to the Supreme Council. So that's what I'm leaning on. But obviously, if you feel different, Kyle, you can let me know and I can definitely arrange something during the ICC meeting to approve those documents. But it's kind of hard because I'm in two headspaces at the moment. One, I have to, yes, make sure that all the documents are solid, but at the same time, I'm still trying to rebuild the database of all the constitutions that we have, whether that database sits on Lancerlife or in a Google Drive that we have, just because I know based off of a really unfortunate story Carrie told me, we do not have a lot of those things in one place. So I'm still kind of like working, about with the logistics about how to make sure all of our documents are always up to date and in one place, and also making sure that they're all valid. So that's why I'm kind of leaning towards the Supreme Council to help me with approving anything, just because it takes one more thing off my plate. So
okay,
that's
I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were asking. Because at first I thought you were asking, does ICC approve the documents? But I don't think ICC's ever approved documents. They've only approved clubs. So I just wanted clarification about that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify too, because I don't know if I'm doing something that I'm not supposed to be doing or not doing something that I'm supposed to be doing. So that's all.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of a lot of confusion around this because there's like nothing written about this at all in the Constitution, nor the bylaws about how the constitutions are going to be reviewed. So that's kind of why I left the onus up to you to determine how you want to do it, because they're really your documents. So we can definitely review them and approve them at the Supreme Council meeting. But I just wanted to make sure that that was what you wanted, because honestly, it falls up to you to determine what you want to do with the Constitution.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. And then Natalie?
I have a question for Chris. When you sent the statuses of the constitutions back to the clubs, did you include the Supreme Council's notes? Because I have some clubs reaching out to me asking what was wrong with my constitution, and it's like really hard to communicate with them, first of all.
Right.
Also, they don't know what's wrong with their constitution.
So it's a matter of, I think maybe on my part, is that when I give out information, I always try to set a policy of giving enough information, but not all the information, because I do have a bad habit, Carrie can attest to this, of just like, for lack of a better word, like vomiting all the information out and people get overwhelmed. So part of my logic was to not tell them exactly what was wrong, but just to tell them to contact you all, so that, because you all have access to that document about the notes that were made, and then, individually pick apart, okay, this, this club has this particular issue. But if that format isn't working for you all and you feel that the clubs are still confused, I'm more than happy to release that information out to clubs in a link in next week's email, if they really want to inspect what is wrong with their club's document. But I mean, how do you feel about that? I don't know if you feel differently or.
I understand what you were going for, but I do believe that it was Kyle's intention to set, and I think he even revised our notes to have all of that information sent, and he can like pop in. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that was the purpose.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a note here in my to-do list to send a link in next week's email. And I'll talk about it during the ICC meeting this Friday too. I have a discussion item, so I'll present that document so people are aware that it exists. And I'll send it to them next week if they really want to inspect and take a look at the details and notes.
Yeah, so yeah, sorry. I want to add to that slightly. The whole point of the doc was so that they have a way to pinpoint exactly what was wrong with it and address it by themselves. And then the contact information was so if they need additional information, they don't know how to exactly respond to the notes, they can respond to it. And that's why I sent you that document. And I would really appreciate if you send that out, because otherwise we have now inefficiency where they spent all the time making the document and now they have to additionally just tell them what's in the document as well as trying to help them out. It just adds additional time on both ends. So that was why we created it in the first place.
Okay, well, I appreciate you clarifying that. I apologize that I didn't know what the original intention of that document was, but I'll make a note to send it out next week and talk about it on Friday. So.
Okay. Jordan, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I think too, Chris and Natalie and everyone, I think once we get like the proper documents uploaded to the website, now that I can do that, like on the AS website, and an updated constitution and everything, it'll sort of give clubs a way to look at an example. And Chris, I don't know if you want to link. I'll try to do that by the end of this week, just so that way we can have the most recent documents uploaded. And then that way we can send that as like, this is an example of what it looks like. I don't know if you already have this, and excuse my ignorance if you do, but if you want to use one of the club's documents that are filled out correctly as a way to sort of like model that behavior, I think that would also help as well. I don't know if you already have that because you both are smart. I'm pretty sure you do, but just another way just to cover all of your bases. If you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and also make a note of that. Yeah, it's hard because I know there's also an information split between Lancer Life and our AS page. So I have to kind of think like how we can symbiotically have information in two places, but have it make sense. So that's also another challenge. Another one of the challenges that, you know, that's the new reality of being online and with all of our stuff in digital format, so.
Sure. I think too, Chris, if you want, me and you can meet just for like an hour, like whenever you have time, so we can like meld that together.
Right.
Because I've just been wanting to get access to my account for this to happen. And now that I do, I can start doing those little projects that I wanted to, because this was one of them. And it was trying to meld Lancer Life between the AS website and the OSL website, because it needs to be like that way, right? And so I think me and you can meet, and then that way it'll just like, that'll knock off so many of the inconsistencies that exist between Lancer Life and.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll email you right now, and then we can set up a time. Not this week, obviously, but sometime next week, and then we can have that discussion.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything to talk about Supreme Council, or are we all good? Okay, well, thanks for having us talking about this. I think this was constructive, and we figured out a lot of things, and there's good conversation. And there's nothing more I think we need to discuss on Supreme Council. So I'll hand it back to Mackenzie.
All right, thank you so much, Kyle. We can go ahead and move on with the agenda item to discussion item C, future events. So I have this item on here to sort of check in with everybody and see how you're doing with your events, since we have been hearing in reports what people have been planning their ideas, and we are getting started with spring. And so just to also a reminder, make sure you're doing your ARFs if you haven't filled those out yet. And I also just wanted to sort of touch base with everybody and see how you're going with your event planning, because I know we need to sort of bring this item back and get more details into your plans and actually start implementing them. But yeah, so if anyone wants to go ahead and unmute themselves and talk about anything they have coming up, we can start discussing that. Or Carrie, if you had anything you wanted to throw in, since we do have like 20 minutes left.
I think I'd love to hear from the students. I know we've got some projects coming up. You've got Spirit Day. Emmanuel, you've got a project coming up. I know folks have been talking to us about doing panels. So if there's a quick review, and I would just like 10 minutes at the end to be able to review the election schedule.
Anybody want to volunteer to go first?
I had a real quick question. For the ICC training workshops that we're going to be doing next week, for example, Mackenzie, Christina, I think Luis, Alex, and someone else, we're just going to do a workshop. Do we have to submit an ARF for that? Is that considered an event?
No, we've taken care of that at our end.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, Carrie and I, to that is, you know, we had a brief discussion yesterday about what the schedule would be like, because I know you are on standby and Mackenzie's also on standby for when you should hold your workshops. And I apologize that it took so long to kind of give you a final decision on that. But what we've decided, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, but we decided that because there are gaps between ICC meetings, like this week there's an ICC meeting, next week there's not, but then there's going to be another one, right? So we use those gaps and take advantage of that time to then hold your workshops, because they're supposed to have 12-1 reserved every Friday for ICC anyway. So that's what we were thinking. Maybe not next week, because I know it's really tight to maybe create a curriculum in 1 week, because I know you all are busy, but we will start maybe doing that. I'm looking at the calendar over my screen here on the 2nd of April. But I'll go ahead and yeah, I'll make a note of that. I will email all of you that are involved. I think so far we have you, Philly, Mackenzie, and Alex, and then we can go ahead and get the ball rolling on that, because I think people are hungry for that information. So, but is that okay? Is that like a good time for you all, like a Friday 12-1?
That
Okay.
works. Anybody else have anything for this item? I know there are several people who have events coming up. You can also ask questions if you have anything regarding your events or just planning things in general. If there's anything you wanted to cover, we can also discuss that. For that, we're working out with everybody's schedules. I was supposed to message you all to see if you were free this Friday. I did not send that out. That was my bad, because I forgot to send that after I got out of class. So we're going to be looking for a new time that we can all be doing that. Anybody have anything else? Advisors, anything you'd like to add in on this?
I feel like we're all in the same boat, just trying to keep our head above water and keep moving forward on all the things we have to do, right? And all our different roles and identities and responsibilities. So I think you all, like Jordan said, maintain your sanity, pace yourself. You're doing a good job. And I would say ask for help if you need help. Don't just drown on your own. I know I have a tendency of not asking for help until I'm drowning. So don't do what I do. Do as I'm trying to improve in doing. So ask for help if you need help.
Just a quick FYI for everybody here. I will be uploading today some resources for the insurrection event on the OSL website. These are going to be resources that are readings and movies that might educate you on the systemic oppression that's happening within the United States. So once we get that flyer and once I get the resourcing list, we'll go ahead and put that on the OSL. I know it'll be a couple weeks before our next event, but we also have on March 25th at 1:30, we have Cycles of Socialization and Oppression. It's an interactive workshop that I think Carrie's doing, right? Am I correct, Carrie?
I'm not
so
sure.
Carrie will be, oh, okay. Somebody will be doing a wonderful and amazing
I think we're
interactive
all
workshop.
doing, this is the one I think we're
Oh,
all
yay. Yay, okay. So just wanted to put that all on your radar so that way you all can, if you're feeling some type of way, which I hope, we're all sort of learning about the historical and systemic oppression that exists that led up to the insurrection, please look at those resources as well as coming to our events to kind of work through it and process what you're feeling. So just want to.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Carrie, since we have time, did you want to go over the election schedule now, or do we?
Yeah, let's do this really quick. I do want to show you though, I don't know if you can all see, it's kind of, so this, your straws did come in and they look like this, like a metal straw. They come with a little cleaner. So because I have this, we've been putting off mailing stuff out. So I need to make sure, please, it looks like it's gonna be Dean Cobb, Chinina, and I, and whoever else happens to be in stuffing these. So I need to have the lists. I think there is a list that I need to send out from Kelly, and I think there's a list that needs to be sent out for Alex for Welcome Week. And do I have anyone else that I need to do mailers for?
I have all the addresses. I can send that to you on a reading.
Kelly, are you cold?
No, I just feel like I'm feeling a little bit stressed recently, so I put myself in this cocoon so I can feel back like a fetus, hoping that it will inspire something. So.
Very good, very good. I'm glad. I'm glad.
We should all follow Kelly's example.
I am self-medicating with a bag of cheese potato chips, so it is all good. So briefly, I just want to go over and Mackenzie, I know I just sent it to you. I don't know if you can pull up the election schedule.
Yep, I will bring it up.
So the election schedule, it's a draft right now. I would like any input that you may have. And at this point, what I'll probably do is then if there's, if we need to make any modifications, we can. It will be held online like it was last year with Lancer Life. We are working with the company to see what we can do to make it a little bit more jazzy. And to just clarify again, their security measures. I always like to do that. And on our end, how can we get the email blast out? We've already set it up with the IT, so we can send out a couple blasts so people can know about this. My goal is to have applications out by the 22nd of March, which is a Monday. It will be out, and during that time frame, that's roughly about 4 weeks, 5 weeks. In between there is spring break. And for those of you that didn't go through the process, it's a multi-step process. Students will have to sign a document basically saying they understand the rules of the game. And I may actually contact you, Philly, for an opinion on the social media. We have social media rules because we weren't really sure. This last year was the first time we kind of did all virtual. So we were concerned with social media rules. Students will have to sign kind of a package saying, I agree, I understand, I'm going to abide by the rules, abide by the Constitution and the social media rules. And then they will be added to a Canvas shell. And once on that Canvas shell, there are assignments that are due. And those are all the multitudes of paperwork. Last year, we took away the option for folks to submit names. It used to be required that you had to submit 60 names. And we use the emergency powers kind of area to suspend that part of the Constitution. I may have to come back to you all again to ask that, but I'm trying to figure out a way that maybe we can get a Google form and students can fill that out and send that in as a way of showing their support for a candidate. Last year, we substituted a written essay. Students wrote a written essay about why they wanted to be involved. That was in place of the 60 signatures. So once all their paperwork is completed, I love Canvas because I hate being that person who says 1201, I can't accept it. Canvas does that for us. Once you submit everything, we will do a sort to make sure everyone meets the basic criteria. And that's phase 1, and that is posted and put out. And then on April 30th is the candidates meeting, and that's where I'm going to request some help from all of you. Maybe if 1 or 2 of you want to just pop in and who have actively campaigned. So folks who have actively campaigned and who were not appointed, to talk about the campaign experience, because it's also about letting students know how that process works and how to balance that with school. We're going to do some town halls, try and do 4 of them if we can. And I will definitely be pulling on Mackenzie and her knowledge of how to stream to YouTube to get that in. And elections, excuse me, the dark side was calling. Elections, and then Friday, May 14th. So Mackenzie, whenever you appoint someone, please make sure that they're available at least on Friday, May 14th, because that's when we certify. They may be required to meet earlier according to the chair's needs, and that's Dean Cobb. So that's a basic overview. Folks who ran in elections, do you have any thoughts, any suggestions, modifications? Because now's the time that we can do this. And let me tell you, May 14th is week 12 of the semester. I prefer that because it gets elections out of the way and doesn't require students to campaign or think about campaigning during finals. And it also gives a month for transition, which is, I think, was a request that we can now transition. You can work with your successor coming in, and you can transition and hand over documents and information. So that was a request from you all.
So I have one question. I know in years past, and I think we have a solution to this already, but we were supposed to get signatures from students, you know, expressing interest for a candidate to run. What are we doing in place of that this semester?
I think what we were thinking about doing, and I was trying to kind of beta test this, is we may have a Google form link that then everyone needs to send out, which would just simply have a student name, and they could fill it out, and they could say, and I'd have a drop down list to say, which student am I endorsing? And then they would submit that. And then I could sort the overall Google form, and we could figure out how many folks. I think what I would be looking for is guidance from you is the rule used to be you had to have 60. And if you got 60, you really needed to get 90 because you didn't know who within that system was valid. And I have disqualified presidential candidates for having 59 signatures. And I don't know in this time of Corona is asking students to get 70, 80 signatures, too much.
Considering how much online participation we get, I feel like we might have to lower the 60 signature requirement just because it seems like, hey, you're online, you're in Zoom, you have people in your classes, it should be easy. I think we've kind of seen not a lot of people really may participate, so we might have, I don't know how low we should put that number, but I think we may have to lower it than 60. That David, give your hand up.
Well, like last year, we just simply took off that requirement. I think that would be the most likely choice. Not everyone has the bandwidth to go around and ask 50, 20, even 10 students for a signature. It's just too much to ask for of a student, especially at this time with how difficult it is to even us to get in contact with so many students.
Yeah, my concern was that a lot of you had asynchronous classes, so actually never physically saw another classmate in Zoom. That was my concern. Anyone else who ran have an opinion? Or actually anyone, even if you didn't run, if you got appointed, what do you think?
If I think I could get 60 students to sign my petition, I would use that and get more lobby like survey kind of questions back. I don't know. I just don't know how feasible that is. Cause we got like around like 50, but that was from like everyone emailing all their professors, like, you know, all these students emailing 6 professors each and also giving them the incentive might be difficult.
Okay, that's good. Tina?
I think I agree with David. I feel like we should basically kind of do it like last year because it is difficult, and even for us, it's difficult for us to get like our surveys out, and we have kind of like a name for it. And I think it's a lot to ask, especially if like 10 people are coming up to you asking you to fill out a Google form, allowing them to run, and then I just feel like maybe it should kind of be like the same as last year where we didn't have that option. I just think it's quite tough for people.
Okay, good. Okay, so what I'm hearing then, it sounds like I will come back to you next week with a motion. And David, you did this, wasn't there an emergency clause that we were allowed, that we did, so that we suspended the 60 signatures? I know we invoked a clause because it's in the Constitution
Yeah,
about.
we had to make a bylaw change, and then we made that. I would have to go back and look at what, or I mean, Kyle, if you could find that in the bylaws, and let us know what we have to do.
Yeah, I think it's in the bylaws. So if we can just suspend that, because I think we've had emergency powers during an emergency, and the president had declared a state of emergency. I don't think she has undeclared it. So technically, I would say we're still in a state of emergency. So, Kyle, do you have some time to look up it's under bylaws? So that
Yeah.
the motion.
I mean, I could find it, but if we made the motion last year to suspend them, we could just take the same motion we did last year and just reuse it, essentially.
Okay. I don't remember what meeting that was, so I don't know where the motion is, but just find the section and we'll just make a motion.
Sounds good. I can do that.
Francis, I know you're listening to this. Can you please make sure we have an agenda item as an action item? 1, to approve the timeline, and 2, to approve suspending the rule regard the bylaw, PCC bylaw regarding 60 signatures for election candidates. So, all right, you all, thank you for the feedback. I'm going to be calling on all of you actually to kind of do some little promotional videos to talk about your experience, why you should join AS. I'm also going to call on all of you to heavily promote this in your committees, because that's where we get new folks. And also to reach out beyond our circle. Again, I always really want us to be able to truly represent the student population. And I think we did a good job at that, but I really think we could do better. So challenge you all to go to different club meetings, to talk to different folks and get them involved and get them going, so that AS can truly be representational. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Philly. Article 12, Section 3. We'll take a look at that. Thanks. And that's all I have, Mackenzie.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Also, besides the signatures, I think overall it's a good timeline that we can go by. That's just my little opinion. Does anybody have anything else they want to cover quickly while we're under feature events? No. Hearing now, we can move on then. Moving on to AS training. Carrie, I believe we're out of time for any training.
Really quickly, I just really need to schedule that MBTI piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I've also done is I've also contacted Institutional Effectiveness and Dan, who creates surveys for a living. I'm going to ask her to come out on a Friday and just do a 45-minute to 1 hour workshop, so that on what is a valid survey, how do you write a valid question to get the information that you want? Because you're all getting to that point where you're starting to do a lot more surveys, and I really want them to mean something. And if nothing else, I know it's the end of the year, this is some good knowledge that you can take with you onto your next position. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Carrie. We can go ahead and move on then to appointment to college-wide committees. What was the full name of the committee we're supposed to appoint Philly on? Just want to make sure I get that right.
Let me look it up. It's a hiring committee. Hold on.
Was that the director of communications?
Yeah, the one for Chrysanthemum that she sent us. Is that it?
Yeah. Director of communications.
All right. So I'd like to appoint Philly to sit in on the hiring committee for the director of communications.
Yes.
All right. Do we have any other appointments we need to make? I'm going to do the election ones are next week because one of them didn't get back to me, so I'd rather do them both at the same time. Does anybody have any college-wide committees appointments to make? No. All right. Do we have any, moving on, appointment to AS committees? Does anybody have any AS committee? Oh, wait, Philly, I believe you need to.
Yes. So is it easier if I just pull up the names on the screen for Francis?
Sure.
Yes, and
okay.
Please send them to her as well, but you can put them in the chat or put them on the screen would be good too.
Okay, I can put it on this. Oh.
Philly, for ADA compliance, you might want to just say their name, just so that way people that are just say it and then also send it.
Oh yeah, I was gonna read off the screen. Does that work? Okay,
that
that sounds
works.
good.
Yep, and I'll send them the spellings too to make sure we get it. I'll stop sharing my screen so you can pull it up.
Thank you. All right, so do I just say I'd like to appoint these, I'll read out their names obviously, but all right, I'd like to appoint Jonathan Apodaca to the Publicity Committee. I'd like to appoint Sophia Enger to the Publicity Committee. I'd like to appoint Eva Garcia to the Publicity Committee. I'd like to appoint Emily Guerrero to the Publicity Committee. I'd like to appoint Zana Maslesa to the Publicity Committee. I'd like to appoint Jacqueline Moreno to the Publicity Committee. I'd like to appoint Tabata Pulido to the Publicity Committee. I'd like to appoint Jericho Sanchez to the Publicity Committee. Lastly, I'd like to appoint Jimmy Tang to the Publicity Committee.
All right, congratulations, Billy. You have a committee.
Woohoo!
Let me go ahead and bring my screen back up. Does anybody else have any committee appointments they'd like to make? No. Hearing none, we can move on then. Moving on to bill acceptance. Kelly, I believe we have none.
No, but we're working on it.
All right. Moving on, approval of ICC funding. Chris, do we have any ICC funding?
No.
All right. Moving on to public comment on non-agenda items. Can somebody check the YouTube for me?
No public. I think I'm the only one watching.
All right. Moving on to announcements. Does anybody have any announcements they'd like to make?
Just wanted to remind you all tomorrow from 10:30 to 11 online will be the accreditation site visit exit report. So they're not going to tell us all the things they think, but at least they'll kind of pull together a statement about their experience here. So if you're interested in that, it's on the website under accreditation.
All right. Thank you, Dinkov. Do we have any other announcements?
Oh yeah, I just want to encourage everyone to join Equipo Student Advisory with the celebration of Women's History Month and an event titled Uplifting Our Mujeres, which will be on the 29th of March from 12 to 1 p.m. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Any other announcements? No. All right. Moving on, future meeting dates and times. Our next meeting will be March 17th. If you send me any agenda items you have by the 11th at 11:59, including the supplemental items that need to be included with it. And on that note, I'd like to go ahead and move on. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting at 2:01 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
I second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any opposed? Hearing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you so much for being here. Let me go ahead and get us off the live. If I could get this thing to stop. Where's my, I'm trying to stop the recording.